Welcome to Lesson 2 on Area, Perimeter and Volume. In this lesson, we are going to look at area and perimeter. We will look at how to calculate the perimeter of a shape, the rule for the area of a rectangle, and the rule for the area of a triangle. Firstly, let's take a look at what perimeter is. Perimeter is the total distance around the edges of a shape. So for example, here we have a regular pentagon with side lengths of 3. The perimeter is how far you would measure along all of the edges of the shape. So here, if I was to add these up, we have 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. So my perimeter would be 5 lots of 3, 15. There is also a rule we can use if we are just looking at a rectangle. So for a rectangle with width, and we're going to call the width W, and the length we're going to call L. To travel around this rectangle, we would have the length plus the width plus the length again plus the width again. So length plus width plus length plus width. Using our skills from algebra, we can simplify this. We have 2 lots of the length and we have 2 lots of the width. So we can write this as 2L plus 2W. So perimeter is 2L plus 2W. This can also be written as 2 times the length plus the width. Now this rule only works on a rectangle. Other shapes have their own rules, but we will use this rule for a rectangle. So for example, let's calculate the perimeter of this rectangle. Here we have a rectangle whose length is 10 centimeters and width is 4 centimeters. So the perimeter will be 2 times 10 plus 2 times 4, 20 plus 8, 28 centimeters. And if we had used our other rule, 2 times L plus W, the length plus the width is 14. 2 times 14 is 28. Whichever way you want to do it, you can use. It's whatever way suits you. Note that the unit here is centimeters because it is a length. It's not square centimeters because we only use that for area. Now in this example, we are told the perimeter of the shape is 64 centimeters. It has a width of 10 centimeters, but we do not know the length. And we want to calculate the length of this rectangle. So we're going to write out our formula. Here, the perimeter we already know is 64, and that equals 2 times the length, so 2 times L, plus 2 times the width. I can then subtract this 20 centimeters that we know from 64. So we have 44 left. And we know that 44 is equal to 2 of the length. So 1 of the length I can get by dividing by 2. So the length must be 22 centimeters. I'll quickly check that that is correct. Let's use our rule here. If my length is 22 and my width is 10, 22 plus 10 is 32. 32 times 2 is 64. 64 was my perimeter. Now we're going to look at how to find the area of a rectangle. Recall that the area can be found by counting the number of squares. This rectangle has 8 squares, and another way we could have counted them was by looking at the number of columns and rows. There were 2 rows, and each row had 4 squares. So 2 times 4 was 8. Now, using this rectangle here with a width of W and a length of L, and using that same idea, we might think of this as having L columns with W squares. So the area would be L times W. And that is our rule for area. The area of a rectangle is equal to the length times the width, and we sometimes write this as A equals L times W. So using this rule, let's try to find some areas. Calculate the area of this rectangle. This rectangle has a length of 8 and a width of 5. So the area is 8 times 5, which is 40 centimeters squared. Now, here we were given units of centimeters and its area, so our units were centimeters squared. But if you are not given the units, make sure you write units squared to show that your answer is an area. So a rectangular sports field has an area of 6,000 meters squared. We know the field is 50 meters wide. We want to know what is the length of this field. Here, using our formula, we know that A, the area, is 6,000. So 6,000 equals the length times 50. Some number times 50 gives me the area. So I'm going to do the opposite. I will divide by 50. 6,000 divided by 50. Now I can cancel the zeros. Now I have 600 divided by 5. I know that 60 divided by 5 is 12. So 600 divided by 5 would be 120. So my length must be 120. Again, if I want to check, I could do the calculation. 120 times 50, 12 fives, 60, add the 2 zeros, I get 6,000. Now, we're going to look at the area of a triangle. Now, a triangle is simply half of a rectangle. We know that a rectangle is the length times the width. If I cut my rectangle in 2, I get 2 triangles. And if I remove one, I'm left with my triangle, which is half of the rectangle. So the area of my triangle would be half the area of the rectangle. That is the area of the rectangle, the length times the width, divided by 2. Half the area of the rectangle. It's sometimes also written as base times height divided by 2, where the base is the bottom of the triangle and the height going up the triangle. Note that on a triangle, the base and the height, or the width and the length, always meet at a right angle. And we'll see in the next example that often we are given more measurements than we need, so we will use the ones that meet at the right angle. So here we have a triangle, and we want to calculate the area. Our first step is to work out which part is the base and which part is the height. I can see on the triangle there is a right angle here, so these two measurements that meet at the right angle will be our base and our height. So I use these two lengths, base, my height. My base is 9, my height is 10. So my area, using our rule, the base times the height divided by 2 is 9 times 10 divided by 2. 9 times 10 is 90, and 90 divided by 2 is 45. Now you'll recall from your work on BidNAS, timesing and dividing can be done in any order. So I could have also done 10 divided by 2 first, to be 5. 5 nines are 45. So my area, 45 millimeters squared. So to recap what we have learned in this lesson, the total distance around the edges of the shape is called the perimeter. Note the units for these are the length units, not the area units. The area of a rectangle is the length times the width. Remember, these are areas, so we need to use our square units. And if no units were given, we use units squared. The area of a triangle is the base times the height divided by 2. This is just the area of a rectangle, but halved. Remember, the base and the height always meet at a right angle. So that is us for our lesson on perimeter and area. You now need to complete the questions based on lesson 2.